Because of the way the universe is created, we each of us live in two worlds at the same time. We have to live in the outer life of our own bodies and the inner life of our own souls.
Hello and welcome to Living the Inner Life. I'm your host, Chris Sheridan, and I want you to join with me on a journey into our inner lives, where we explore thoughts, our feelings, emotions, our life experiences, everything that we have, these tools of consciousness to help live a better life, both inner and outer. Now, in our busy worlds, both outer and inner, we have a very busy mind, the monkey mind, as it's often called, and what we need to do most of the time in inner work is to relax the thought process, the constant emotional stream that's going on through meditation and relaxation, breathing, just being, acceptance, all these things that seem very passive, but it takes a very active approach to be able to do this. Okay? So to slow down, to calm down, things will become more clear and more easy to deal with. But that's not what I'm talking about today. I'm kind of talking about the other type of action. And it's not all the time, and it's not a good approach to meditation, but sometimes you just need brute force. Okay? Nothing else to it. Nothing to concentrate on, nothing to feel about, and it's relentless. You have to do some heavy lifting. Okay? Push comes to shove. And when it does, you have to push and shove. Okay? So the context, though, in using brute force is a little different. I'm going to cage it this way. You can't force yourself to relax. You don't want to use brute force relentlessly getting you to try harder to meditate. All right? That's not going to work. What I'm talking about is breaking through blocks or resistance or procrastination, avoidance, anything. This is when you know better, but you're not always doing better, or you need to do more, or in a more stronger kind of a way, if that makes sense. All right? So that's brute force, okay? You just have to put in the effort. You have to show up. You have to get in the grind. You have to put in the hours. And you have to put aside your thoughts and feelings about the whole thing if you've already decided that this is what you're going to do. And you need to do certain things every day, or on a certain day, or for a certain period of time. You need to do something very, very strong in a very forceful way to break through the resistance or the block, or just get out of your own way and get on to what needs to be done. Okay, so there's two kinds of brute force I want to talk about. One is just that heavy lifting capacity, this horsepower, the ability to move a heavy object further and maybe move it out of the way or break it down into small pieces so it's easier to digest or to disperse. Okay, you think of a big truck like in a construction site. Okay, something big with big wheels and a big engine and a big dump truck part in the back. Okay, with a big loader and a big scoop and a shovel and all this stuff that's big and it's loud and it's yellow. So think of something like that. You have to do heavy lifting. You have to move the mountain. Okay, and that's what it seems like. Sometimes we're up against a mountain of resistance, or perhaps many, many years of disappointment or frustration, or maybe things haven't worked out too well in this area. And you need to break through. You need to bust the dam open and get to where the flow is happening again. Okay, so it takes increased strength and resolve and determination. And you have to show up and you have to push harder and try harder to get through where it is you need to do to get through to where it is you want to go. Okay? And like these big machines, I remember I went on a tour of an old steamship, and it was big. It was the Queen Mary. Everything was bigger. I went to the engine room, and what struck me was there was nothing really fundamentally different about the giant engine and all the giant parts that were there, or even the giant tools. They look just like little tools, just like a Tonka truck looks just like the big earth mover. The tools were giant. It was a giant wrench to go on a giant nut that was on a giant bolt. And it looked just like teeny ones, but it was huge. So sometimes this brute force just has to be bigger. It doesn't have to really be all that different than if you're dealing with something small. You just need more. You need a bigger boat. You need more capacity, more effort, a stronger push, okay, a heavier force on this seemingly immovable object. And you need to double down. You need to dig your heels in, get your head down, and just plow through. Okay, these are, I'm talking about things that you know you need to do. Okay, if you have to, do your taxes or something like that, or something unpleasant, you just have to, at some point, you have to bite it, and you have to dig in, and you have to just get it done. Turn everything else off, and put aside your thoughts and your feelings, and whether it's fair or not, and just get the job done. Okay? Because we can get caught up in a lot of thinking and hemming and hawing and justifying and planning and getting ready and researching and all these things, which is good to do to a certain degree, but you can get lost in that and just use that as an avoidance tactic to keep from doing the thing. And often, we are talking about things that are unpleasant, that are difficult. Okay? And in this case, what I'm talking about are things that need this brute force. Okay, so that's the first one, something that takes a big effort in a relatively concentrated area and in a relatively short amount of time that you're going to push through. Okay, the other kind of brute force is a little more of the garden variety, where it's not the actual effort that needs to be put forth that is all that massive. Okay, it's not going to take all that much power to do the thing, but where the brute force comes in is in relentlessness. These are the things that need to be done every day, over a long period of time, perhaps, that you may not see the results right away. You may have long plateaus along the way where it seems like there's no progress or improvement. All right, but you have to be relentless. You have to show up every day. Okay, and that takes a different kind, but it is still this brute force. Okay, it's just a showing up. It's clocking the hours. Okay, it's hitting the gym. It's practicing your instrument. It's not meditation that you want to use this brute force, but you may have to take that force and apply it to your life and your schedule and carve out with a hammer and chisel that 15 minutes a day where you can get a little bit of solitude, a little bit of quietude, and you can focus on your breathing or do single point meditation or whatever it is that you're going to use for your practice. Okay? The practice itself is not something you want to force, but you may have to cleave in the rock a space for you to be able to do this. Okay, and every day. And if it gets hard, well, I know I did it yesterday and I've done it every day for the last 3 weeks and I'm not seeing any improvement. You have to get up and do it again the next day. Okay, so that's this relentless, continuous brute force. All right, and there's a reason why I'm calling it brute force, because even though there's these two different types of force, the thing that's also important to remember, regardless of what kind of force, whether it's a concentrated effort or it's a sustained, consistent effort over time, is the brute part, okay? This is kind of the stupid, brute, dumb, not thinking, does what it's told. Think of a beast of burden, although animals aren't stupid, they know what they're doing, but they're trained to do something in a certain way. The Indians have used elephants for centuries. That's one of, part of the symbolism with Ganesha and other deities. Even the Shiva, the dancing Shiva that has the 4 arms and all this motion and everything that's going on. Well, the one in the front is actually an emulation of a trunk of an elephant, most likely Ganesha. And that's the symbol for pushing through. Okay, elephants are big, they're strong, they have this trunk, and when they're going down the road and you're in their way, they will plow right through you and knock you off to the side and keep on going. So it's very much a brute force animal. It's a beautiful animal they're very smart as well, but they know how to use this force to their advantage. Okay, that's kind of how they're designed. And maybe you can meditate on that symbol or conjure it up when you need to push through and you don't feel you have the strength, or you have to get up and do it again. Well, think of this elephant. Think of Ganesha. Plow through, dig your heels in, get your head down, horns out, and plow through whatever it is you need to do to get through. And about being brute, you don't really want to question it. Okay, this is instinct. This is survival. This is determination. Okay, it's not up for question. Because, again, this is something that you've already set to do. You've already thought about it. You've already decided. Say it's learning an instrument and you want to practice. For an example, you have to carve out that time, or for meditation, and you have to show up. You have to be relentless. You have to power through the uncomfortable, awkward part. It's actually painful when you start learning how to play guitar until you get calluses. The way to get through it is to just keep on going. All right? Keep pushing through and don't question it. Okay? If you've already decided you want to do this, improve yourself through learning an instrument, through physical fitness, or meditation, or spiritual practice, or a combination of those things. If you've determined that these are the things that you want to accomplish and you want to improve upon in your life, well, then there's no reason to question it. And you've also set out the pathway. I have to put out a block of time and I have to get through this stack of paperwork, okay? It looks like a mountain, but I just have to lock myself in my office for 2 days to get this done, if that's what it takes. Eliminate all of the distractions. Turn your phone off. Whatever you need to do, bring in this brute force, because you've already determined it's something you want to do, it's something you need to do, and you know what the steps are to be able to do it. Okay? That's already been decided. You've already set that intent. You've already valued that for yourself. Now, bring in the brute force so you honor that contract that you have. Okay? This will help you do the thing that you want to do. So this force power, this powerful force, isn't really a thinking, deciding, hemming and hawing about everything, questioning things, self-doubt. It does what it's told, what you tell it to do. Okay? So you need to bring it up in order to tell it that. All right? And again, in spiritual practice, in depth psychology, in meditation, in contemplation, you don't really often think of this brute force, but it can really, when it's used at the right time and in the right way, it can be the very thing that you need. Because a lot of times we can get close to a goal. You know, there's a lot of what would have been great accomplishments, achievements, or great discoveries have fallen short in the final mile, right? In the final hour, that the effort has been dismissed, that somebody gives up when the goal is almost in reach, almost in sight. Okay, there's a story about a swimmer who was going for a record, swimming from Catalina Island, probably to San Pedro or Long Beach or someplace in Los Angeles from the island. It's about 14, 15 miles. And it's, the water's kind of cold and rough. It's the Pacific. But this was a long time ago. And this was a goal. This was a world record attempt by somebody. And she was doing great. She was way ahead of the record. There were other boats nearby watching in case, she got in trouble or needed anything. But it started fogging in and she couldn't see the coast. She couldn't see where the goalpost was. Okay, and they're shouting at her from the boat saying, you're headed in the right direction. Just keep going. It's not that much further. I know you can't see it, but we know it's there. You got this. Keep going. She couldn't see it. She couldn't see it. Could not see the coast, and obsessed on that and gave up. Okay, and ended up being just like hundreds of yards from where the breakers and going to the shore. Definitely would have made it, but didn't, because couldn't see it. Could not see the goal. Could not see the end. And this is when you need that brute force. Okay, even if everything else is telling you, oh, I don't know, I can't see it. No, I can't make it. Oh, this is just too much. Bring in that brute force. Call up Ganesha. Get that elephant. Get your head down and dig in your heels and move forward. You have to push yourself. Now, again, I'm not talking about unreasonably forcing something. If something doesn't fit, if something doesn't work, you don't want to force it. But I'm talking about that part that resists, the part that procrastinates or avoids or finds an excuse or finds 850 other things to do. For whatever reason, a lot of the times, the thing that we want to do can become something that we also resist. You've heard the phrase, I'll take the medicine once I'm feeling better. Okay, it's not really how it works. Okay, if it's that important to you, refocus on your goal. Okay, if you want to practice an instrument, if you want to get better at it, you just have to show up, even if your fingers hurt, even if it's frustrating, even if you haven't made progress in 2 weeks. A lot of times you just have to keep going, keep showing up in small amounts even. It's better to spend a relatively small amount of time and effort on something if it's very directed, very focused, and you do it consistently over a period of time. You can achieve great results that way. Okay, like chipping away at a stone, you've maybe heard that, when you want to break or crack or split a large block of granite. You will do that by making a lot of very small hammer and chisel marks in very specific places along a line, along a fracture line, and you just keep on doing it, keep on hitting, keep on striking, and eventually one more strike and this huge heavy block splits in two. Okay? It's not each blow, each strike that is so important. It's the fact that you're showing up, strike after strike, hammer after hammer. Okay, you have to keep hammering at it. Only do what you can do in a day or at a time. Don't push yourself beyond what's reasonable. But don't let yourself off the hook either and say, no, that's okay. Well, maybe you can try that tomorrow. Well, maybe if you're feeling better. You'll feel better when you do the thing. It's the part right before that feels unpleasant where we often get kicked out of doing something or showing up or finding a way to weasel out of it. Okay, don't let yourself do that to yourself. All right, your goals are that important. Your aspirations, the achievements, the accomplishments you want to make, the growth you want to have in your life, that's important. You wouldn't set out to do it if it wasn't, if you hadn't thought it through, if it hadn't have, the thought or at least the idea of it brought joy or some pleasant thing, some interest that's been brought up in wanting to do this. Okay? And if you stay in fantasy land too much, you can think about it and, wow, wouldn't that be great? Oh, we could do this and do that. You might get further and further away from doing it because, unfortunately, well, whether it's fortunate or not, a lot of the work that needs to be done is just showing up. A lot of it is bland. A lot of it is just chipping away at the stone. Okay, maybe it's even boring sometimes or tedious. Okay, but you still have to get through it because anything that you're doing, as long as there's a goal in mind and there is a fairly reasonable plan of action set up, if you want to increase the amount of weight you can lift on a bench press, well, there's a way to do that, okay? But that way includes actually showing up and lifting weight. You're not going to add 50 pounds to the barbells, your second day, All right. You may be stuck at a certain weight for weeks and then maybe only add 5 pounds to that afterwards. But that's what it will take to get better, to get stronger. And that's to keep showing up and use this brute force. Okay? And I guess in the case of working out, yes, the action itself takes brute force. That is raw strength. It's very physical. You want to do it right, but it's not really dependent on feeling or belief. It's just something that you have to do. Okay, so whether the action is very full of effort and physical grunting and sweating, or if it's quietly concentrating or meditating or practicing an instrument or taking the time out to read something very quiet, the brute force comes in when it helps you show up every day and continue and to keep after it, even when the results or the feedback isn't quite happening, maybe as fast or as soon as you want it to. Okay? And use that brute force for the big things that are difficult, but they're no different than the small things. It's just larger, so it takes more concentrated, focused effort, more strength. Okay, that's the brute force. That's the brute strength that you have to call up to do these things, to push through the block. Say, I'm going to do it anyway. You show up anyway. Okay, I've been going through some frustrating things the last couple of days, and today I'm just like, no, I need to do a podcast. I don't care what I think or feel. And that's how I sort of got on the idea of doing brute force, because I had to force myself to do the thing that I really enjoy. Okay, I'm not forcing this podcast out. Hopefully it doesn't sound forced. I'm having a good time with it. Okay, but to get my tail in the studio and flip on the camera and the light and to close everything else off, that took a little bit of effort, a little bit of force, a little brute force that says, no, even if I'm not feeling this way or that way, I don't care. I want to do this. This is something I value. I want to be consistent. I'm putting out at least 2 or 3 a week right now, and that's part of my goal. I want to do a lot of podcasts to get to where I'm better at doing them each time. Okay, instead of just spending months trying to get that first one just right, I'm doing it over and over again. And a lot of times you get better at doing something by doing it, not really researching it or thinking or practicing or doing all kinds of tests. Sometimes you just have to step out. No, you do. Every time. You have to step out into the arena and do the thing and force yourself to get out and enjoy what it is that you've set out to do, because it was a worthy goal in the first place and you're worth it to do it. So when you need it, use that brute force and get on it. And we'll see you next time here on Living the Inner Life.